California with the Travel Show Guide.
Hello. This week's programme is the first of two guides to Southern California. We're going to be looking in detail at the area around Los Angeles and San Diego. Tonight we're going to concentrate on the places that most tourists visit, like Hollywood and Malibu Beach. In our next programme, we'll be looking at all the major attractions and theme parks in the area. And there are many, ranging from Disneyland to the world-famous San Diego Zoo. Southern California has basically two large conurbations, Los Angeles with a population of about 8.5 million and San Diego, virtually on the Mexican border, where over 2.5 million people live. We'll look at each area separately, but first a few general points. The money is of course dollars. Take extreme care with the notes though, they're all the same size and colour. It's very easy to be shortchanged with a $1 note, say, instead of a 10. There are four main coins: 1 cent, often called a penny, 5 cents, a nickel, 10 cents, confusingly smaller than 5 cents, called a dime, and 25 cents, a quarter. Because of the volatility of the exchange rate, we're going to quote all costs in dollars. By the way, don't take pound notes or sterling traveller's cheques. You'll have great difficulty exchanging them. Take instead dollar traveller's cheques. You don't need to go to a bank to change them. You can use them like money in most shops and hotels. Also, if you've got a credit card, take it. America is geared up to plastic money, and it's almost a necessity when hiring a car or booking at a hotel. Access, incidentally, is called MasterCard there. Prices in America are never what they seem on the tag or on the menu. You must always add on the local sales tax. This varies from county to county and ranges from 6% in some parts of Los Angeles to 7.25% in San Diego. Now, getting there. The flight times are long. There are direct flights to both Los Angeles and San Diego, and they take about 11 hours. If you stop to refuel, add an extra hour. There's an 8-hour time difference, so that if you left the UK at, say, 11 in the morning, the earliest you would arrive would be 2 p.m. local time. Getting through immigration and customs can easily take an hour and a half. That's 3:30 p.m. But your body thinks it's still British time, and that's 11:30 at night. So you're going to be feeling very tired. Our advice is that if you're hiring a car, book your first night's accommodation somewhere near the airport. When you collect your car, you'll need to show your driving license. An international license is not necessary, and you'll need a credit card as surety. If you haven't one and have not paid in advance, you might well have to pay the full hire cost in cash. Now, the driving. Los Angeles has the most extensive network of motorways in the world. They call them freeways, but that network is increasingly overcrowded.
Their peak periods are 7 till 9 in the morning and from 4 to 7 in the afternoon. Then freeway traffic is bumper to bumper for miles. At peak time, slip roads are often controlled, only one car on at a time. Once you're on the freeway, you'll find that vehicles will overtake on both sides, and watch the overhead signs. If you're in the right-hand lane, you may well be forced to exit, whether you want to or not. Also, exit signs may not be marked until quite late, so you really have to keep your wits about you at all times. Many radio stations carry regular traffic bulletins.
An accident off of the right shoulder involving a semi.
To find them of much use, though, you need to be familiar with the freeway system. The speed limit on the urban freeways is 55, although it's often less. One rule, which takes some getting used to, is that you can turn right on a red light, providing the road is clear. You'll find that parking in most areas is not normally a problem. There are usually plenty of meters. The cost varies, though 50 cents an hour is about average. Traffic wardens, by the way, are common. You must always park in the same direction as the traffic on your side. Otherwise, it's illegal.
A couple of useful points when driving. All the road numbers assume that America is a perfect grid of north-south roads crossing east-west roads. North-south roads are always odd numbers, east-west roads are even, and that applies from freeways to country roads. The towns, of course, are normally laid out in a grid. Each square is called a block, and the road along each block usually has 100 numbers. 1125 Lincoln Boulevard is in the 11th block, and the street sign usually shows the address numbers. Also, there are always street names at each corner, so addresses are easy to find. Now, a detailed look at the area, and incidentally, all the film was shot in March. We'll look at Los Angeles first. In size, it's vast, about 65 miles from north to south. The international airport, known as LAX, is in the west. The centre of Los Angeles, called downtown, is 13 miles to the east and is mainly an administrative area. Most Britons make for Anaheim, home of Disneyland, which we'll cover next week, or the Hollywood area in the northwest.
People expecting glitz and glamour are usually disappointed with Hollywood. The area around Hollywood Boulevard is very ordinary, even sleazy looking. The main focal point is a cinema, Mann's Chinese Theatre. This odd landmark, a mixture of Chinese and Polynesian styles, was made famous by the custom of celebrities leaving their foot and handprints in the cement in the forecourt. Started in the late 20s, it's a permanent record of the golden age of Hollywood. It's always busy with tourists seeing how they size up with the famous. On the pavement outside the theatre is another spot the name game. This is the Walk of Fame, a line of over 1,800 stars marked with the great names from the entertainment industry, and they add new ones at the rate of about one a month. If you're chosen, you have to pay about $3,000 for the honour. Another attraction in this area is the Max Factor Museum of Beauty, a look at Hollywood makeup through the years. It's free, and there's a shop where you can buy discount cosmetics. Paramount is the last of the great studios still in Hollywood. Its entrance reflects the age when the area was synonymous with glamour, extravagant living and world-famous stars. Nowadays, most of the work is making television series, some of which are shown in the UK. Running right through Hollywood is Sunset Boulevard and its famous Sunset Strip. It's nothing to write home about, a long stretch of road lined with billboards. In entertainment terms, it's now a centre for improvisational comedy. The well-known nightclubs have gone. Ciro's, one of the most famous, is now the Comedy Store, but it's not all nostalgia. In West Hollywood, A Star Is Worn is a second-hand clothes shop with a difference. All the stock is celebrity cast-offs being sold for charity. So if you fancy a John Travolta shirt or a Cher blouse, this is the place for you.
To locate some of those places, Mann's Chinese Theatre is on the north side of Hollywood Boulevard. The Walk of Fame runs along Hollywood Boulevard and down Vine Street. Paramount Studios are by Melrose Avenue, and Sunset Boulevard actually stretches 22 miles from the coast to downtown. Sunset Strip is a 2-mile section around La Cienega Boulevard. Incidentally, that famous Hollywood sign in the Hollywood Hills is visible from various points in Los Angeles, but the best place to take a photo is along Beechwood Drive, north of Hollywood Boulevard. The other glamorous-sounding district in that area is Beverly Hills.
Beverly Hills is associated the world over with money. The houses say it all, ranging from southern plantation style to designer ramshackle out of an idea from a Disney film. The most visited street in Beverly Hills is Rodeo Drive, a neighborhood shopping area with a difference. Here is the most concentrated collection of expensive shops anywhere in North America. Most of the names are world famous. But don't expect to be too successful in star spotting. You'll find most people are simply window shopping, or also trying to pick out the rich and famous. One of the best ways of seeing Beverly Hills is to take their version of a local bus. It's called a trolley and costs $1 any distance.
The smart part of Rodeo Drive is between Santa Monica Boulevard and Wilshire Boulevard. Many tourists like to go and see what the film stars' houses look like. In reality, the best ones are usually hidden from view, but you can buy maps showing who lives or used to live where. We came across Vince, who personally marks out a route.
Dunaway sold it, Mitzi Gaynor, Ann Miller, Smokey Robinson, that's Shirley Jones. Any questions?
He gears his spiel to your nationality and special interests. His map costs around $6, including the patter. There are also guided coach trips that take you past the stars' homes for about $25, but you stand more chance of actually seeing stars if you go to watch some location filming. There's always some taking place in the Los Angeles area. If you're interested, you can get a full schedule of what's being shot each day from the Motion Picture Coordination Office on Hollywood Boulevard. It's called the Shoot Sheet and costs nothing. Now let's look at the coast. You'll find the sand is generally fine and golden. We'll start with Malibu.
Despite its famous name and glamorous image, Malibu in reality is not that interesting. The actual town straggles the very busy Pacific Coast Highway. There is a pier at the centre of the resort. Next to it, a public beach, which is popular with surfers. The sand is soft and pale, but the sea gets deep very quickly. To the east is a long stretch of beach, but because the whole shoreline is jammed tight with expensive beach homes, it's quite difficult to find a way on. There is no promenade here. To the west of the town is Malibu Lagoon State Beach. This salt marsh, open to the public, is a popular feeding area for a wide variety of shorebirds and marine life all year round.
You can, in fact, drive through Malibu and hardly see the sea because of the houses. The best place to get onto the beach is by the pier and then walk along. Just outside Malibu is the J. Paul Getty Museum, which houses what is fast becoming one of the greatest art collections in the world. This is free, but if you're driving, you must have a car park reservation. You usually need to give at least a week's notice. Now Santa Monica, the biggest resort in the area.
The beach at Santa Monica is a 3-mile stretch of soft pale sand that's kept very clean. Running through the sand are well-used cycle paths. They're about as wide as an English country lane, and you're supposed to keep to the right. There are good beach facilities, including volleyball and children's playgrounds. All along the back of the beach is a pedestrianised promenade with snack bars and pizzerias. You'll also find shops that hire out bikes and roller skates. Skates are a bit cheaper than bikes. Santa Monica's focal point is the pier. Though it's a bit dilapidated, it's reminiscent of a British seaside resort, with amusement arcades, cheap cafes and souvenir shops. It gets very packed at weekends. Ocean Avenue, the main seafront road running along the cliff top, however, has style. This area, together with Main Street, 1 block back from the coast, is where the most interesting, though often expensive, shops are. In Heritage Square, many of the shops have an old world feel, and Santa Monica has its own outlet for movie celebrity cast-offs. It's called Starwares.
Santa Monica is on the freeway system. In fact, the Santa Monica Freeway is the beginning of Interstate Highway 10, a motorway running over 2,000 miles to Jacksonville, Florida. Virtually next door to Santa Monica is Venice Beach.
The beach at Venice is surprisingly not the main attraction, although by anybody's standards it's very good. A wide stretch of soft sand shelving gently into the Pacific Ocean. What pulls visitors to Venice Beach is Oceanfront Walk, a 2-mile-long pedestrianised area lined with shops, cafes and stalls selling the usual T-shirts, beachwear and cheap sunglasses. It is, however, an unusual and at times exciting area, for this is considered the roller skating capital of the world. The best time to go is at the weekend, when people come from miles around to see and be seen. In the centre of the resort is Muscle Beach, a small enclosed pen where men come to work out in public. Venice Beach was conceived at the turn of the century as a replica of Venice, and a few of the original buildings still exist, although nowadays colourful murals have been added to some of them. Miles of canals were also built, but most were filled in to make roads during the 20s. Those that survived are lined with houses and have paths alongside, making a peaceful haven, in sharp contrast to the lively beach area.
Venice Beach is best visited during the day. In fact, it's illegal to walk on the beach at night. It's considered too dangerous. To the south is Marina del Rey.
Marina del Rey used to be a marshland. Now it claims to have the largest man-made small boat harbour in the world. There's mooring available for over 6,000 boats, and it's a very upmarket area. Most tourists come here on a visit rather than to stay. The main interest is the Fisherman's Village on Admiralty Way. This is a colourful collection of restaurants and shops bordering the marina. It's all meant to resemble a New England whaling village. The choice of seafood and fish restaurants is excellent, but expensive.
You'll find that as the resorts are busier at weekends, the parking charges go up. The weekday rate often doubles at weekends. Well, that's our quick look at the Los Angeles area. Now, what about the weather? With me, as usual, is Dr. John Thorns of the University of Birmingham. John, what's the climate like in Southern California?
Well, they have a Mediterranean climate in the summer, which is very pleasant. But also in the winter, they have temperatures which are warmer than you'd find in the Mediterranean, so it's actually better than the Mediterranean. And indeed, if we look at the average maximum temperatures, you see that they never fall below 19 degrees throughout the year, and they get up to 29 degrees Celsius, which is 84 degrees Fahrenheit in August. Sunshine also excellent, more than 8 hours, right the way through from February to October. Rain days, very few, as you would expect, and even in winter, and virtually nothing from May to October. Slightly down, though, are the sea temperatures. The sea is relatively cold because of the cool California current off the coast, and it only just reaches the rule of toe test of 20 degrees Celsius in August.
Is that the only drawback to the climate?
Well, there are sea fogs on the coast because of these cool currents. And also, of course, you have the famous Los Angeles smog. Now, this is caused by the unique geography of the area with these cold currents off the sea causing cool onshore winds, high pressure over the Los Angeles basin, which tends to trap the pollution in, of course, with the coastal mountain range. And, of course, they have high temperatures, lots of sunshine, and this gives you what's called a photochemical broth with all the vehicle exhaust, because there are about 10 million cars in California all churning out pollution. And this leads to the formation of what's called ozone, which is an irritant. And it can stick around for days, and this causes your eyes to water and can give you respiratory problems, etc. But they are trying to cut down emissions, and in fact in recent years there have been very strict restrictions on pollution from motor vehicles, so it is getting slightly better.
And what about the earthquakes?
Well, yes, it is one of the worst earthquake zones in the world, and according to the global seismology people up in Edinburgh, in fact they have an earthquake that you can feel virtually every other day. A slight damage earthquake 2 or 3 times a year, and every 3 to 10 years a major earthquake like the one they had in 1989 where 61 people were killed. And these are all related to the San Andreas Fault, which runs right across California. And down in Southern California they also have the Imperial Fault to worry about. But of course the Californians are aware of this, and therefore they have very high building standards. And indeed, if you look at the 1988 quake in Armenia, which killed 25,000 people, it was of a similar order of magnitude to the one that only killed 61 people in California. So indeed, if you're going to be in an earthquake, one of the best, safest places in the world to be is Southern California.
So would you go?
Oh yes, I mean I've been 5 or 6 times and never really felt an earthquake. But if you look at the weather conditions, I mean the best time to go, obviously any time really in the summer months. I mean it's in the excellent category right the way through from May to October. I think I'd probably plump for September when it's not too hot, but still excellent.
Thanks, John. Now we'll look at the San Diego area. As I mentioned earlier, there are direct flights from London, or if you drive from Los Angeles, it's 125 miles along the San Diego Freeway, Interstate Highway 5. Alternatively, you can take the train from Union Station in Los Angeles. The Amtrak San Diegan runs 9 times a day, and it takes about 2 3/4 hours. San Diego is the 7th largest city in the United States. It used to be known as a major naval base, but now it's becoming increasingly popular as a tourist area.
San Diego is far easier to come to terms with than Los Angeles. It doesn't sprawl as much and has an obvious centre. It has its share of high-rise buildings, but it's generally cleaner and less frenetic than its northern neighbour. If you want to get around the city without driving, it's worth considering the San Diego trolley, what we might call a super tram. It's cheap, clean and suitable for the disabled. As well as going into the eastern suburbs, it also goes south, right to the Mexican border. Unlike many American cities, the centre of San Diego is still good for shopping. The centrepiece is the Horton Plaza on Broadway, a well-designed multi-million-dollar shopping complex where you can park easily and wander around pedestrianised areas. The general atmosphere is upmarket, but in fact there's a wide range of shops available. It's an open-air mall on 3 floors, and the top floor is dedicated to eating places. Here you have a wide choice of foods on offer from many different nationalities. Prices are about average. San Diego has spent a lot of money on a district called the Gaslamp Quarter. What used to be a sleazy area has been transformed. Streets tree-lined and buildings restored, both for housing and shops and cafes. It's now one of America's largest historic districts, and every Saturday there's a 2-hour guided walk right through the area. For such a smart city, you'll be surprised by the number of tramps around the central gardens. Locals say the sunny climate attracts them. However, they don't normally bother passers-by. The city developed around the narrow San Diego Bay. Overlooking the harbour area is the large Spanish-style county administration centre. Nearby is the Star of India, one of a series of floating museums. This claims to be the oldest merchant ship still afloat. There's also the Barclay, used in 1906 to carry people to safety during the great San Francisco earthquake. All around the harbour are very attractive and surprisingly peaceful walks. The whole area is pleasantly landscaped.
To locate some of those places, the downtown area is about 4 miles up the bay from the coast. Horton Plaza is on the south side of Broadway and the Gaslamp Quarter is to the east. The maritime museums are along Harbour Drive. San Diego is very keen on its history. One particular area worth visiting is Old Town to the north of the downtown area.
The Old Town, the original settlement of San Diego when it was a Mexican rather than an American town, is now a state historical park. Many of the old buildings have been carefully preserved or rebuilt in the original style. It's well geared up for tourists with an information centre and guided walks. In one corner of the park is the Bazaar del Mundo, a colourful collection of mainly Mexican shops which are actually more interesting and better value than many of the souvenir shops to be found just outside the Old Town.
San Diego is well endowed with an interesting coastline and many beaches. The sand is finer than further north. It sticks to your skin. One interesting coastal area is Mission Bay Park. Here you have the choice of Mission Beach, a long stretch of sand facing into the ocean, often with strong surf, or sheltered beaches facing into the bay. The bay itself is a zigzag of lagoons with many small islands. In all, it has around 27 miles of sandy beaches, though in many respects it looks like a giant landscaped boating lake. SeaWorld, one of the major attractions in San Diego, is in Mission Bay Park, and we'll be looking at that next week. There are a couple of residential districts that we think are well worth visiting. Just across the bay from the downtown area is Coronado.
Coronado is an exclusive and refined suburb, home for many retired naval personnel. The area is kept immaculately clean and tidy. The shops and restaurants are all very upmarket. The big attraction is Hotel Del, the magnificent Hotel del Coronado. Right on the beach, it's where they made the film Some Like It Hot, but it's also listed as a National Historic Landmark, and non-residents are allowed to wander around. The shore at Coronado has fine whitish sand and is very wide. It's usually sheltered and seldom gets crowded, even at weekends.
To get to Coronado, you have to cross the Bay Toll Bridge. It costs $1, but what isn't made very clear is that if there are 2 or more people in your car, it's free. The other residential area we're looking at is in the northwest. It's spelt La Jolla, but is pronounced La Jolla.
La Jolla, Spanish for the Jewel, is another wealthy suburb, and the town centre reflects the lifestyle of its residents. The streets are attractive and kept spotlessly clean, and the shops are a mixture of designer boutiques, art galleries and chic cafes. Locals call it the Village, and it's a very popular area for window shopping or generally posing. La Jolla Cove is one of many small sandy beaches along the rocky coastline. This area is an underwater ecological reserve and an excellent spot for snorkeling. Even if you don't venture into the water, you're likely to see many examples of marine life on the rocks and in the tide pools. Behind the cove is an attractive landscaped park with paths along the cliff tops. La Jolla has in all about 7 miles of cliffs. North of the town is good for surfing. Wind and Sea Beach is rated as one of the best on the Pacific coast. If you're keen to have a go, there are many surfing shops in the area, and you don't have to buy. The equipment can be hired.
Well, that's our look at the San Diego area. Now our independent traveller, Matthew Collins. Matthew, where did you go?
Well, first of all, I headed for Hollywood, and I don't normally splash out on these trips, but this time I must admit I did, because I stayed in Hollywood in the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, which is one of the first hotels built for the movie stars in the 20s and 30s. It has all the original fittings in the bedrooms and in the bathroom from the 20s and 30s, has exhibitions of all the stars of that time, and it's actually the place where they do lots of screenings of the new soap operas. So if you want to see the latest edition of LA Law or Dynasty, you go up there and see the screening.
What did you do?
Well, one of the really interesting things that I did in Hollywood was a Star Tours tour. And you mentioned you could do it with a map, which is obviously a cheaper way, but I did it with a guide. And the good thing about going with a guide is you get all the latest sort of Hollywood gossip. You really don't actually see that much of the houses. I mean, because they've all had high security fences built and really high hedges, so you can't see much except the front of the house. But you do get gossip. I mean, for example, we turned up outside Bo Derrick's house, and the guide said, and this, of course, is where Bo Derrick lives, and, of course, it's really hot at the moment. It's 80 degrees. So Bo Derrick, probably right at this very minute, is out on her sun terrace, sunbathing, totally in the nude. And everybody sort of goes, well, and, of course, you can't see anything because there's all these high hedges. We got to Barbara Streisand's house. There was this high security fence there, and the guide said, poor old Barbara Streisand, she had this new security fence built because she's become really shy of the public ever since Don Johnson left her. So everybody looks again, don't see much. But one of the fantastic things I did see a bit of was Johnny Weissmuller's house and his swimming pool, because when Johnny Weissmuller was the first Tarzan, and he had in his back garden, specially built, a 1.5 mile long swimming pool, or so we're told. I saw the first couple of 100 yards of it, and it was massive. And apparently Johnny Weissmuller used to swim a length or a couple of lengths of it every day before breakfast. But the most fantastic house we saw on the Startles home was Aaron Spelling's, and he, of course, is the producer of Dynasty, and he's had his house custom built. And so far we've been told that it's cost $80 million. It has 75 bedrooms, a garage for 90 cars, and all it's going to house is him, his wife, and his 2 kids.
Did you get to the Getty Museum?
I did get to the Getty Museum. I mean, that's on a par. I mean, well, that's much more superb even than Aaron Spelling's house, because it's a mock Roman villa built on something that was discovered at the time of Pompeii. And the interesting thing about the Getty Museum, as you mentioned, is getting there, because if you're in a car, you sometimes have to reserve a car parking space up to a week in advance. But if you take the bus, you can just turn up on spec. And you take the bus, and when you get onto the bus, you have to ask the driver for a pass to the Getty Museum, and that enables you just to walk up without a previous reservation. The Getty Museum itself is fantastic. The villa is superb, but the collection that it prides itself on most is its Greek and Roman antiquities, and these are superb. I mean, you have to wade through rooms at the British Museum to see just any of these things. But the Getty Museum, of course, has annoyed a lot of people because it has an annual budget of $100 million a year just to spend on artwork. So, of course, it's pushed up international price levels all over the world of art. But I mean, the interesting thing about it is seeing the Americans' attitude to all this art and ancient history. I mean, one of the rooms I really liked was the Impressionist room, and you'd see all these Impressionist paintings that you're totally unfamiliar with. You see these Americans looking at these paintings going, gee, 120 years old, you know. And of course, just next door, you've got things 5,000 years old.
Did you come across any of the famous lifestyle?
I did, most evidently in Venice Beach, which I think was absolutely my favourite place. And Venice Beach at the weekend is packed with buskers, musicians, salesmen selling anything, Walkmans, Ray-Bans, food, the whole lot. And one really funny thing about Venice Beach is that all the Californians turn up there to do their cycling. They're all really into cycling. They turn up with their bikes parked on their roof racks or on the back of their cars. They unhitch their bikes from their cars and then go cycling around this cycling track, which is also for roller skaters, and then put their bike on their cars and go home. Well, the most interesting thing are the buskers. I mean, you see fire eaters, limbo dancers, all kinds of people, jugglers. And I mean, some of the buskers that I spoke to, they told me that they could actually make $1,000 a day just by busking at Venice Beach. And their acts are superb, really world class.
Matthew, thank you. Now, next week we'll talk to you about driving, accommodation and what you made of the San Diego area. Finally, you'll find that the duty-free shops at both Los Angeles and San Diego airports have only a limited range of goods available. And in America, you buy your duty-free goods in the shops, but they're not given to you until you are about to board the aircraft. Also, the more restrictive allowances apply. For instance, you can only bring back £32 worth of souvenirs or presents. Anything more, and you have to declare it. Well, that's all we've got time for. If you'd like to buy a script of this programme, it's being offered as a double pack together with the script of next week's programme, which, as I mentioned earlier, is looking at the theme parks and other attractions of the area. The double script is £3.50, including postage and packing. Send a cheque or postal order payable to the BBC to the Travel Show Guides, P.O. Box 450, Manchester M61FZ, and please mark your envelope Southern California. That address is also on CFAX page 619 and in the Radio Times. I hope you'll be able to join us next week when we'll be looking at the Universal Studios tour, Disneyland and lots more. Until then, goodbye.
Well, in fact, the second travel show guiding Southern California can be seen tomorrow morning at the same time, 9:30. Incidentally, the travel show